Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another fantabulous episode of Great Scott. I'm Scotty B. Thanks for watching. So, we recently seen the release of Superman Futures End book, which is unfortunately more about Shazam, which I figured it would be based on the cover. If you've been reading Futures End, you now know at this point that Superman that's running around 5 years from now, which begins every comic, 5 years from now, is wearing a mask. And the reason he's wearing a mask is because he's not really Superman. He's Billy Batson in the guise of Shazam, who is then in the guise of Superman in a new suit and a new mask. I actually like this suit a lot. I said this on Radio KAL. I would have liked this as an alternate take in the New 52. Not that I mind the New 52 version either, and obviously minus the mask when it's the real Superman. But what I wanted to talk about here is the story in and of itself. I wasn't reading Futures End, as I said on Radio KAL, until I kind of learned about it. I was late to the party. There were 20 issues out already, and the reveal of who Superman really was had already happened. I somehow didn't find out about it. And I read 20 issues in about 4 hours or so over the course of 2 days, maybe a little more than that, but still over the course of 2 days, a few hours a day. I'm actually really enjoying the story. The story really works in a world without Superman, and that's probably why they had to get rid of him. Now, here's the issue that I have, and the issue that I think is really what goes on with a lot of people who aren't fans of Superman, and that is they read stories like Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. They read stories like Futures End. They read other alternate stories that they wouldn't normally read if they were a Superman book. They read them because they go over the whole DC universe, or they read them because they're centered on Batman, or they read them because they're centered on someone else. They're not Superman fans, so all they learn about Superman is what they see in these alternate reality, or strange reality, or different future timelines, or different past timelines, or Elseworlds tales, or completely out of continuity misunderstandings of characters' tales like The Dark Knight Returns, that really have no basis in who Superman actually is, just a basis in who Frank Miller wanted him to be for that particular story. And so the non-fans read these, and then I speak to many of them who go, well, isn't Superman a jerk anyway? Well, isn't Superman an arrogant ass anyway? Well, isn't Superman a coward anyway? And those are so far from what he is. He's not arrogant. He doesn't believe himself better than anyone. He believes he can help, and because he believes he can help, he does help, which is part of the problem with this story. Now, I know it's a mystery, and I know that we're going to find out, I hope we are going to find out. We learned a little more in Superman Futures End. It has something to do with a him who says Superman must do something that he's not going to want to do in order to win the war. And that's great, because that means Superman is required to win this war, while all the other heroes are failing, and they're all falling by the wayside. Now, of course, 35 years from now, even though Superman does what was needed to win the war, according to Batman, things get even worse. And now Superman wasn't around, and then in one panel we see that he's been assimilated by the Brainiac forces that have taken over the entire world with OMAC and all that stuff. So it's hard to understand exactly what's going on because we haven't found out everything. But the biggest thing that irks me and will help to make the non-fans feel like Superman is just a jerk is that Superman's supposed to be this strong-willed, never-ending battler of evil who never gives up and has endless hope for the future and endless hope for humanity and defends the Earth to the very end, to his dying breath. But in this story, we get a Superman that gave up after doing whatever it was Batman seemingly tricked him into doing or forced him into doing, because Batman says himself, you're not capable of making the hard choices. I've always known that about you, Clark. But you're needed, and Superman is needed, and only you can do certain things that need being done. And it seems like he then had to force him to do it or trick him into doing it somehow. When I was talking to Steve on Radio KAL, my thought was, okay, if something he did caused his parents to die, or something he did caused the love of his life to die, or something he did caused the massive destruction of lots of lives. And maybe that's what we get here. Maybe he needs to destroy all of Metropolis or something in order to save, but Metropolis is still intact here. So, in a sense, maybe he needs to destroy something, thereby killing lots of people in order to end the war, or something along those lines. Maybe he has to kill Darkseid. Maybe he has to destroy Warworld, and he's not a killer, and he doesn't want to be forced into killing or making that decision, so Batman has to do something to make him do it. I don't know, but I hate the idea that people reading are going, well, what's the big deal about Superman? He's out in Africa planting trees or digging ditches or whatever, which, if Superman was Superman, and just based on the TV show Smallville, how quickly he could get things done, he'd just fly over there, dig a ditch, fly back, stop a nuclear holocaust, fly over there, dig the rest of the ditch, fly back, stop a murderer, fly over there. There would never be an issue that he couldn't be in a couple of projects at a time. But for whatever reason, in the Future's End story, he's given up on being a hero, and it may be because of whatever it is Batman forced him to do. But the story makes Batman look like the guy who never gives up. Batman look like the guy who's super determined and will always protect the weak and defend the Earth. And Superman look like a pansy who decided to quit when things sucked a little bit. So I hate seeing it that way. And Batman is all those things. He is grim, determined, and will keep fighting no matter what. But he's also human, and that's why he realizes, I think, that we need Superman to do certain things in dire situations like this, and probably why he has to force Superman to do it. But it looks really bad for Superman to have people like John Constantine coming up to him saying, "Oh, great job, hero. Way to give up on the world." This is John Constantine, who was punk-ass himself, who doesn't really care about anybody and was kind of forced into demon fighting that he does simply because of his own circumstances, but not because he wanted to help. Superman always wanted to help. Superman wanted to protect the world. Superman wanted to make things better. So to see him turn his back is heartbreaking, and that's what makes for great drama, and that's probably why it's a good story, and I'm guessing by the end, Superman's going to come to the forefront, and him along with Batman and maybe some others. But it's probably going to end up being a Superman-centric solution based on what we're being presented with here, which is great, but then you still go, but it took Batman and John Constantine and other people prodding him to come back and make the difference that was needed. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and remember, even though it seems like DC continuously paints Superman to non-fans and people who don't know the rest of his stories as a guy who gives up really easily or turns evil. You got the whole injustice thing going on where Batman, again, in both universes is a great guy and wants to do the right thing, and you got Superman murdering people. It seems like DC loves to do that, even though they do, still always try to look up in the sky.